Is the interpretation showing for everyone? Okay, great. Well, thank you again to everyone for coming. Thank you to our interpreters, Komai, and thank you to CRIPDES San Vicente, Maritza, and Lurvi for coming, and the leaders from Las Anonas as well. It's an honor to have you all here tonight, especially in the critical time that our organizations are facing. We wanted to mention um, that tonight, as we are discussing the raising of funds, our work is being impacted by the newly passed foreign agents law in El Salvador. Um, I hope that we can work together to find a way to respond to this, especially in light of the fact that our donations may be taxed or will likely be taxed at 30%. And as we navigate this, we will continue to be communicating with you all. Any updates? And now I pass it over to CRIPDES San Vicente.
Hola, buenas noches a todos y todas. Mi nombre es
Hello,
Maritza
good
Maya,
evening. My name
parte
is
del
Maritza
equipo de
Maya.
CRIPDES
I
San
am the
Vicente.
part of the team of
Hola, muy buenas
CRIPDES San
noches. Mi
Vicente.
nombre es
Hello,
Luvia
my name is
Hernández,
Lubia
del equipo
Hernandez,
regional de CRIPDES San Vicente.
here regional team of CRIPDES San Vicente.
Compañeras, la
Um,
interpretación es
Hello,
simultánea,
the
entonces
interpretation is
ustedes pueden
simultaneous,
continuar
so
hablando
you can
a
continue speaking
a una velocidad moderada para que
at
las compañeras
your moderate pace
puedan
so that we can
hacer lo
keep
mismo.
up with the interpretation.
Ok, de acuerdo. Si nos ayuda con la
Great. So if you
presentación,
can
por
just
favor.
help us with the presentation, please.
Bueno, ahí para todos y
Well,
todas,
here,
para que
so
podamos
everyone
ubicarnos,
can
CRIPDES San
see
Vicente, estamos
CRIPDES San
ubicados en
Vicente.
nuestro
We're
mapa El
located
Salvador en el
in this
municipio de
map of El
San Vicente
Salvador
Sur,
in the municipal
departamento de
of
San
the
Vicente.
south of San Vicente
Como pueden
department.
ver,
And
colindamos
you
con
could
el Océano
see
Pacífico.
we are close to the Pacific Ocean.
Para empezar, pues
Y
nuestra
para
presentación,
to
queremos
start our
hacer una
presentation,
parte
we want
de
to talk,
contexto en el
so
que
give some
trabajamos con las
context about
comunidades del Bajo
the
Yunta
work that we do in the
de
communities
Coluca, San Vicente.
and in the community of Tecoluca,
En
San
este
Vicente.
caso,
In this case,
comentarles para todos y
just to
todas que
talk,
nosotros trabajamos con comunidades
share,
rurales,
we work
donde la
with rural
población pues, se
areas where the
dedica a la
population is
agricultura, a la
mostly dedicated
pesca,
to
a la
fishing,
ganadería, al trabajo
agriculture,
de
hunting,
jornal,
different types of
a
day
la crianza de
labor,
aves de corral
um,
y al
working
pequeño
with
comercio, ¿verdad?
poultry breeding
Iniciativas
and having
económicas
some
para
small businesses.
garantizar pues la alimentación básica de
And,
la familia.
it's just basically providing for like the basics for a family.
Siguiente presentación, por favor, Zulmita.
The next slide, please.
Parte de este
Part
contexto en
of
el que
this
viven las
context that we
familias
want
de
to
las
share is
comunidades del
that the
Bajo
family of
Yunta,
the
estamos
communities
con
live
calles
with
internas
or
de las
having a
comunidades
lot of
que se
internal roads
dirigen
that are
las
just
diferentes comunidades
that how
a las parcelas
the community
agrícolas
that people do
en mal
use is
estado,
just in a really bad
totalmente deterioradas.
state. They're
Tenemos
just
un sistema de
deteriorated.
protección que está
There
compuesto
is a
por bordas,
per
sistema de
there's a different
drenajes,
protection system
gaviones,
that's happening with
compuertas,
drainage and
donde se
doors
controla, digamos, o
where
se
there's like
trata de
supposed to be
proteger las tierras
trying to
agrícolas, las
control the
viviendas,
different
todo este sistema de protección
land
para
that's
protegerlas.
there,
Por otro
that's
lado,
happening.
también para
On the other
producir
side,
una
to
manzana de
produce
tierra de una
um,
familia en las
just an
comunidades,
acre
se
of
requieren
land, it
aproximadamente
requires about
$700 entre
$700
maíz, abonos, fertilizantes
for
y todos los
seeds,
insumos agrícolas
fertilizers,
que se
formulas,
necesitan.
manure, and all the other things that the agriculture needs to produce.
También queremos compartir que el
We also
salario
wanted to
mínimo en El
share
Salvador para
the
el área de los
minimal
trabajadores agropecuarios es
salary,
un
the
total de
monthly salaries is basically
$243.36, que equivale a un salario diario de
$272.66, which
$8.
basically is a
También
daily
los y
salary of
las
$8.
agricultores, ¿verdad?
And then like
Personas que
agriculture
se dedican a
workers or
formar en la
folks
temporada de la zafra
that
con
are
un
working
salario
during the
básico de
harvesting
doscientos
season,
setenta y dos punto sesenta y seis,
they're basically
equivalente a
making about
$8.96
$8.96 a
diario por día
day for
laborado.
salary for the work that they do a
¿Y
day.
esto qué implica, verdad? Que
So what does
también
that
las
imply?
familias
That
salvadoreñas
also implies
actualmente
that
tenemos una canasta
families
básica que ronda
who
en el
want
área
a
urbana
basic
un
basket of
monto de
food for
$248 y en el
comes out
área
to be about
rural $181. Esto quiere
$240 in the
decir
urban
solo lo
area.
básico para
So, but this
garantizar la
is just the
alimentación de las
basics for
familias,
families to
no
have.
incluyendo
This
salud,
doesn't
no
include
incluyendo
anything
estudio,
health or
no incluyendo
education.
recreación
This
y
is
otros
not
aspectos necesarios
any
para cada familia.
recreation that, families really need.
Continuamos con nuestra presentación y
Continuing
queremos
with our
compartirle
presentation,
por
and
qué son
we want
afectadas
to
las
share why
familias
are
por
they
inundaciones.
affected related to the floods.
Este, pues por las obras de protección en mal estado,
For the
las
protections of the
comunidades en
areas that are
terrenos
affected,
planos, terrenos
folks are living
arenosos
in,
y con una gran
flatlands,
deforestación
sandy soils, and
y no
deforestation
hay políticas
affects this, and there's
orientadas
no
a la
policies
mitigación y
oriented
prevención
to
del
the
riesgo
risk and
de
mitigation
las
and
comunidades.
prevention for the communities.
También vemos, ¿verdad?,
So
lo
you
que
could
es el
see here
deterioro de
the
las obras
deterioration
de
of the
conservación,
work
como lo
of the
es la
conservation that
borda
they're
y los
trying to do,
galeones,
which is like the
que
border and
están
the
en diferentes
valleys that are
lugares,
here. They're in
Rancho
different
Grande,
areas,
Taura,
Rancho
y que
Grande,
ahora vemos
and
el gran
and
deterioro y
they
que
could see like
amenazan
a
a las comunidades.
big area that's
Y el
affecting
gobierno
a lot of
no asigna
communities,
fondos,
and
¿verdad?, para
the government is
poder
not giving
darles
funds
como un
to
seguimiento
give
y
it any
una
follow up
reconstrucción
and
a la borda
reconstruction
y a
of the
todas aquellas
different
obras que son necesarias.
work that is necessary.
El control de las descargas de la Comisión,
The
¿verdad?,
discharge control of
Ejecutiva
the
Hidroeléctrica del río
Hydroelectric
Lempa también
Executive Commission
es
of the
parte,
Lempa
¿verdad?,
River is also
muy
part of.
difícil de controlar porque
It's
la
just
verdad es
hard
que
to
hace
control
tiempo,
because
en el
a long time
2011,
ago in
nos
2011,
inundaron dándonos a
there was
conocer
another
una cantidad de
flood.
metros
They only
que
it
descargaron
affected
del
just
agua, pero resulta que
um bad
la experiencia
water
de la
came
gente de
through,
las
and the
comunidades
experience from the communities of the
es
folks that
otra
live there
y la verdad
is
es que
different.
hubieron muchas
And there was
comunidades
just so many
inundadas y sin
communities that
ninguna
flooded over
respuesta.
without any
Un
help.
sistema
There was no
de
system
radio que nos
of
informa sobre los
radio
de las descargas,
to
pero que no es muy
inform of the
certera, ¿verdad?
discharges,
Y no
just
hay
didn't work.
confianza en la cantidad,
And there's
como
no
les decía, de las
confidence
descargas
in the
porque
amount of the discharge
ya hemos sido
because
inundados y no se hace
they've
cargo
already
de las
been
pérdidas
flooded
ni
before,
de la
and they're not
atención que
even
requiere después
taking care of what's happening with the
de una
losses
inundación para
and
las
what's
familias
happening
cuando
with all the
pierden
floods when
todas sus
families
cosechas
happen,
y
when they
todo lo que
lose
comprende
everything, their
en pérdidas en
agriculture, their
general.
harvest, everything they lose.
Con el seguimiento y el mantenimiento
With
a obras
follow-up and
de
maintenance of
protección
the
y
minimum protection
minimizar lo que son, ¿verdad?
is basically just to,
Las inundaciones,
minimize
a
the effects
pesar
of
de
the
las
floods.
demandas de las
Despite
comunidades,
the demands of the communities,
el gobierno no
the
quiere,
government does not want
digamos,
to
designar fondos para
allocate
preparar las
funds
obras
to
de
prepare
protección.
the protection
Aparte
that's
de eso,
needed. And aside from that,
tampoco en la respuesta hacia las
they're not in
comunidades
the
en un momento dado.
responses. And
Todo esto
all this
viene a concluir
comes
con la parte de la represión para que la gente no
comes
se
with
queje de lo que realmente
repression,
está
so
pasando,
folks don't really know
el
what's
estado de excepción que
actually
nos
happening,
mantiene
the
calladitos, ¿verdad? Y que nos
deceptions that
mantiene con un
is
gran
happening, that
miedo a
people
las
are just
comunidades,
scared to speak
en
up for the
donde
communities,
también
and
deteriora la parte de
they're
la
deteriorating
lucha
the efforts, the
de esa
struggle
efervescencia
of the
y las
need,
leyes para favorecer
and
a la
the
clase
laws that
económica
favor the
y el
economic
incremento de los
class
impuestos
and the tax
que
increases for the
prácticamente
people that are
deterioran más
practically are
la capacidad que
deteriorating
el pueblo tiene
the
y
capacity
la
that
seguridad
towns
alimentaria.
have and the security that people need.
La asistencia de ayuda humanitaria sesgada Hoy en día no se
The
siguen
assistance, the
los
humanitarian
protocolos de
aid,
ayuda humanitaria,
nowadays,
no
it's just
escuchan a
not
las
being followed.
comunidades las
They're not
verdaderas
listening to
necesidades que
communities,
tienen
the
y
actual needs that they actually have.
los apoyos solo son
And the support
los
are
requieren
is
para las
only
comunidades
given to
afines
communities that
políticamente al
are
partido de
politically
gobierno.
related to the government party. So they have to be affiliated.
La obstrucción del cauce, ¿verdad? De los
The
diferentes ríos,
obstruction
en
of the
especial
riverbeds
el río El
for
Aguacate, para el uso
especially in
de riego para el
many
monocultivo de
irrigation
la
of
caña
that are needed
y
for the
el
irrigation of
drenaje obstruido
sugarcane
por nulo
is
mantenimiento y
affected,
tan
and
necesario
the
que es en las
drains that are being
comunidades, en
obstructed
especial
due to the
la
lack of
comunidad Las Anonas.
maintenance, especially in the community Las Anonas.
CRIPDES como región San Vicente
CRIPDES, San
ha
Vicente
realizado acciones,
have taken
hemos
some actions.
presentado propuestas
They
al
have
gobierno para la
presented
reconstrucción de
proposals to the
obras de
government
protección en
to
zonas de
reconstruct
riesgo,
protections for irrigation,
procesos formativos a jóvenes,
processes for
líderes y
training for young
agricultores y
folks,
agricultoras.
leaders, farmers.
También han habido
Also,
análisis en
they've done
asambleas
analysis
comunitarias
in
y sectoriales
community
con líderes y
assemblies
lideresas,
with
campañas
leaders,
de reforestación que son tan
re
importantes,
reforestation campaigns, which is so
campañas de
important,
limpieza, de
a cleanup
recolección de desechos
campaign,
sólidos
and
en las
the
diferentes
solid waste
comunidades
collection campaigns in
y la
certain
promoción de
communities,
campañas
and the promotion of
de
campaigns
recolección de
in
desechos en los ríos
what's
y
happening
en
in
la
the
bocana,
rivers
¿verdad? En
and the
especial.
river mouths also.
La presentación de cartas firmadas por
The
14
submission of letters
comunidades
signed by
para la
14
reconstrucción de
communities
la
for the
borda en el
reconstruction of
río
the
Lempa,
levees
que
in
es
the
tan
Lempa River
importante
is so
y
important.
traemos mucho tiempo
And we
de
have a long
venirlo
time of
demandando y el
having
gobierno
these
que no le quiere
demands and
asignar
the
fondos para que se
government that
pueda
is just not
reconstruir
designating
y
funds to
minimizar
construct it
las
and to
dificultades que las
minimize the
comunidades en cada
difficulties
una
that
de
are
las
the communities
inundaciones
are happening because of the
enfrentan.
floods.
En el medio ambiente y el cambio
In
climático, la comunidad Las Anonas
in the environment and the climate
es una de
change
las que
in Las
ha
Anonas,
realizado lo que son
it's
obras de
realizing the
mitigación y de
works that are trying
preservación
to
del medio
mitigate
ambiente
the
con
preservation of
cultivos
the environment
alternativos.
with different ways,
Un,
different
uno de los
alternatives.
proyectos
One of the
que
projects
realizamos
that
y que también lo
they're
ven que es muy
working on
importante,
and that we've seen
sumarse a
that's really
esa
important
actividad tan importante.
is to do these alternative
Como menciona
practices.
Lurby, ¿verdad? Hemos hecho esfuerzos para acompañar a las
We've,
comunidades
you
en
know,
la
as
demanda de
mentioned,
que
we've
se
been working on the
invierta
demand
recursos para
to
las
ensure
nuevas
that
obras de
there's
protección.
enough protection
Inclusive se
for
acompañaron
um,
verificaciones en terreno con
including the protection
representantes
of different
del gobierno
acres of
local,
land for
del
the
gobierno
from the
central, pero
government,
se quedó solamente en
but it only
verificación
stayed
porque han
just
manifestado que,
verification
uno,
because
que no
they
tienen los recursos para
manifested that they
ello
don't have
y dos, que la
the
práctica de que de
resources
verdad
for
no
it,
les
and the
interesa resolver el problema de
at the
las
end of the day they
comunidades.
don't care
Ante
about
estas
the communities.
adversidades, pues las
So
comunidades
at that
seguimos
rate, the
tratando
communities
de
are just
organizarnos
trying
a
to
pesar del
continue to
temor,
organize,
del
even though they're
miedo que
scared,
genera el estado de
the fear
excepción
of having
para
the
reprimir, ¿verdad?, a
deception from the
las
government
comunidades
again,
organizadas que
because of what's
defendemos los
happening with
derechos.
communities that are
Por
organized,
ello,
because they have
también es
rights. They want to move
importante
forward.
llevar de la
And it's
mano
so
la
important to
promoción
take
de
with
programas,
hand the
proyectos o
different
acciones
projects, the different
de promoción de la
actions with them,
agricultura
the
orgánica
promotion of
a través de la
the food
agroecología,
security that they
para
need,
fomentar la seguridad alimentaria
so
y
that
de esa
they
manera pues
understand that they
contribuir a
can
las
move
familias.
forward and
Ante este
help
panorama también
families.
en la zona de
In
el
this
monocultivo de la caña de azúcar que explota,
panorama, they see that
contamina y afecta a las
the
comunidades.
the effects of the sugarcane agriculture is affecting the communities
Ahí
where it
pueden
pollutes,
apreciar algunas
and they could
fotografías
see
de algunas
some
acciones de
pictures of some of the
proyectos de
actions, the
producción de
projects
hortalizas en la comunidad de Las
that they've
Anonas,
been doing in the
de
different
crianza de aves de
communities,
corral que
the
permite o contribuye a
creating
esta
of
seguridad
different
alimentaria
ways
que
that they're
necesitan hoy
able
más que
to
nunca las
help
comunidades.
the folks in these communities now more than ever.
¿Y por qué es importante apoyar
And
a
why
la
is it
comunidad de Las
important
Anonas? Y de
to
antemano, pues agradecer
support
a todos los que están en
the
esta
communities of
campaña. Es
Las
importante
Anonas?
porque
It's
es
important
necesario mejorar las
because
condiciones
it's
de vida de las
important
familias que
to
están en
improve the
situación de
conditions of
vulnerabilidad,
the
especialmente la
vulnerable
comunidad de Las
families,
Anonas,
especially
¿verdad?
the
Que
community of
hasta
Las
ciertos
Anonas,
momentos ha sido
who
discriminada
at
y ha
this
tenido
time have
poco
been
apoyo por
discriminated
parte
again,
del
and
gobierno local.
the government from the local government.
Los apoyos solidarios que puedan surgir de esta
The
campaña
solidarity
para
support of the
proyectos de
agriculture
escuelas de educación, de
projects and education
sensibilización
and awareness
ayudan a mejorar y
rising help
transformar las
to
comunidades.
improve the
Necesitamos seguir
transformation of
transformando
communities, and we need to
ante estas
keep
adversidades que
transforming
tenemos.
these
Nosotros somos
against these
conscientes que si las
the things that
familias
are coming
producen la
against.
tierra, se va a
If families
garantizar
produce
la
the land,
economía
their family
familiar.
economy
Como hemos
is
mencionado, el alto
guaranteed.
costo de la
As we've
canasta
mentioned, the
básica
high
y los
cost of the
insumos
basic
para
foods
producir la
and
tierra
the
ha
inputs for
generado que más
productions have
familias
caused
estén
that
en
more
condiciones
families
de
be in
extrema
conditions
pobreza.
of extreme
El
poverty.
nulo apoyo por parte del
And the lack of
gobierno
government
a
from
la
this
población más
of
vulnerable
support
es
that they
clara.
give
Han
is
eliminado
clear
programas
that
sociales
they're
de
being
beneficio a las
eliminating some
comunidades.
social
No hay
programs for
inversión.
communities.
Le quitaron
There's
los
no
fondos a los gobiernos
inversions.
locales y
They're taking
tampoco
the
hay
local funds
ningún
for
apoyo a las
governments,
comunidades.
and
Seguimos cada día
no
en vez de
government, the
avanzar
communities do not
en
have
deterioro de las
the
condiciones de
need that
vida.
they need, and there's deterioration happening in the communities.
Y por último, pues, para
And
nosotros,
lastly, for
todos los
us,
años del
in all
aporte del
these years
hermanamiento
of
a la comunidad
being
Las
in the
Anonas, a la
communities
región,
for the
la
region,
solidaridad,
the
en esa
solidarity
solidaridad y
and
ese apoyo
in this
encontramos la
solidarity
fuerza para
and
enfrentar estos
where we find the
desafíos que
strength
estamos
to
viviendo hoy
face
día
the
y
challenges
necesitamos construir
and
un
build
futuro
a better
mejor,
future
porque a
for
veces
what we need,
no
because
vemos esas
sometimes
esperanzas,
we
y
just
más
don't see
ahora
that
donde
hope, and
líderes y
especially now
defensores de
when
derechos
these
humanos
leaders and
son encarcelados
human defenders are
injustamente
being
bajo este
jailed
gobierno en
unjustly in this
represión.
government.
Esta solidaridad nos
So
da la
this
fuerza
solidarity
para
gives us the
seguir
strength
adelante.
to move forward.
Muy bien, muchísimas gracias, compañeras Maritza y Lurbe. Ahora vamos a escuchar de las
Very good,
compañeras
thank you.
representantes de la
Now we're
comunidad Las
going to
Anonas
hear
un
from our
poco
representatives
sobre
from
su
the Las
experiencia.
Anonas community and a
Tenemos
bit
la
of their
participación de la
experience.
compañera
We have the
Ana,
participation
Isabel,
of
de
Ana,
Marisol y de
Isabel,
Sofía, que
Marisol,
también
and
creo que anda
Sofia,
por ahí, pero
who I
no
think
la
is also
tenemos registrada
around,
ahorita.
but I
Entonces,
can't see right
compañeras,
now.
aquí le dejamos el
So,
micrófono a
friends, here
ustedes para que nos
I'll leave the
compartan un poco
microphone
desde su
so you can
experiencia.
share a little bit from your experience.
Bueno, tengan muy buenas noches.
Well,
Les
everyone
comparto un
have a
poco la
great
historia
night. I will
de las
share a little bit
Anonas.
about the story of the Las Anonas
Nosotros
community.
salimos del conflicto armado
We
en el 86
got out of the armed
y
conflict
en Santa Cruz. De
in
Santa Cruz salimos para
86.
entrar
From
a Las
Santa
Anonas en
Cruz,
el
we
91.
moved to Las
Y de
Anonas in
ese
91.
jardín 50 familias.
And
Y ya
coming
aquí a
from
Las
over there were
Anonas
51 families.
llegamos en el
And once here in
91.
Las Anonas, we arrived in
Ahorita, a la hora
91.
actual, tenemos
And at in the
125
current moment, we
familias
have
y
125
habitantes
families
tenemos
and inhabitants.
340
We have
personas.
340 people.
Y la solidaridad que
And
tenemos
the
hemos tenido el
solidarity that we have
acompañamiento de
and have
nuestros
had, the
hermanos de Filadelfia,
accompaniment of
vienen
our
desde Santa Cruz,
sisterhood
Berlín,
in
y de allá nos
Philadelphia,
vienen apoyando ellos
all the way from Berlin. People come to support us
con proyectitos y hasta
with
la
little
hora, ahorita
projects, and up
actualmente
to now,
siguen ellos apoyándonos
they continue to
con
support
proyectos
us
y así
with
vamos saliendo
projects, and that's how we
gracias
keep
a
going.
ustedes.
Thank you to you all.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es
Good
Marisol
evening. My name is Marisol.
y pues yo compartir un
And
poco
I want
de
to
la
share a little
actualidad
bit
de la
about the
comunidad.
current state
Pues
in the community.
siempre ha sido una comunidad
Well, it's
organizada
always
y
been an
seguimos
organized
siendo.
community, and
Pues
it
gracias
keeps being that
a
way.
igual
And thanks
como
to
nuestros hermanos
similarly
de Filadelfia, ¿verdad?
our sister
Acompañados de
city in
ellos y
Philadelphia,
pues
accompanied by
gracias a Dios pues
them. Well,
tenemos
and
hoy
thank you to
una
thanks to
cancha,
God.
tenemos
Today we
una
have
escuela,
a
una casa
field,
comunal, una
a playing
iglesia.
field, a common area, a
Pues también
church,
tenemos
and we also have
hortalizas también, las familias hoy
the
en día pues
families
tienen,
nowadays
¿verdad?
they have
De las pequeñas hortalizas que cultivan,
small hortalizas
vamos
that are cultivated
pasando, ¿verdad?
that
Entonces, es un
we
gran
are
apoyo
passing
para
through,
nosotros.
so it's a big support to us.
Muy buenas noches.
Hi,
Mi
very good
nombre es
evening.
Sofía
My name is
Hernández, soy
Sofia
presidenta de la
Hernandez,
Junta
and
Comunal
I'm
de
the
Las
Vice
Anonas.
President,
Pues
Communal
quisiera
Vice President
compartir un
of
poco
Las Anonas, and I
sobre
also want to
la
share
temporada
a little
invernal.
bit
Pues
about
decir
the
de que para
winter
nosotros
season,
esa época como que es
just
la
to
más
say
que nos
that
impacta
that
porque
season is the one that impacts us the
que nos
most,
afecta
that affects
en la forma
us
de que la
in the
comunidad es
way
realmente
that
bien
our
vulnerable,
community is very
ya que
vulnerable
tenemos la calle
since
interna muy dañada,
our main
o sea,
street
tenemos el río de la
is
avocado
very
que nos afecta
damaged,
demasiado.
and we have the avocado river
Y
that affects
la
us a lot.
preocupación es que más que
And the
todo como
worry is
estamos
that more than
vivimos
anything,
y es
more than it
algo que muchas
harming
personas de
our
la comunidad
what we can
de eso
cultivate,
sobrevivimos,
but many
de
of
eso
us from the community, that's
sobrevivimos.
what we survive
Y
from.
compartir
That's what we
también de
survive
que
from.
el año
And also
pasado
to share with you that
salieron del
last year,
albergue 56 familias, ya
that
que, digamos, la otra
76
parte
families
de
came
familias
out,
también
and the other
salieron de
part of
su
the families
comunidad,
maybe didn't come out of their
ya que por
community
querer,
because
cuidando lo
maybe
poquito
to
pues que
take care of the
teníamos,
little bit that they had.
salieron más que todo las mujeres,
More than
quedaron los hombres
anything,
en la
the
comunidad.
women came out and the
Pero
men
para
stayed in the
nosotros es algo
community.
muy,
But for us, it's
muy
something that is very
preocupante, porque
worrisome, very
también sacamos
worrisome,
las personas a los
because we
albergues
also
y
took
a las
people to the
comunidades
shelters,
afectadas, porque
the
regresan a
most
sus
affected
casas
community,
sin
but
fe,
when
pues
they returned
de hacer
to their
sus cultivos,
home, but
que
without
están
faith
perdidos, tal vez sin
of
que comer,
finding
sin
what
nada,
they've cultivated and having
los
nothing to
afecta
eat or
de
anything,
forma
that
internamente.
affects them a lot. The topic of winter.
Como podrán ver ahí
And how you could see
Con, con,
como podrán ver ahí,
how
las
you could
calles
see
pues
here,
en muy
the
mal
street
estado.
is in very
Así
bad
como
shape.
aparecen ahí,
Just how you
las
see it
tenemos.
there, that's
Nuestras
how we have
viviendas,
them.
algunas viviendas de que
Our
muy
homes
afectadas se
are
llenan tal vez con los primeros
affected,
lluvias, ya que el
and
río es
some
el
get
primero
filled with
que
the
sale,
first
que ellos pueden
rain
migrar y
because the
afecta
ones
pues las
closest to
viviendas.
the
Hay
river are
personas que
affected
pasan mucho
first.
tiempo tal vez con el
And
agua
there's
dentro de la
people
casa
who
y
just
vienen
live a long
enfermedades
time
para los
with
niños, para
water in their
las
homes, and
personas
that
de edad,
brings
pues y para
illness
todas las
to
personas de la
people,
comunidad.
to
Pues
children, and
la
really all the
comunidad de
people
Las
over the
Anonas es muy
community.
afectada.
So the Las Anonas community is very affected.
bueno, muchísimas gracias,
Well,
compañeras. No
thank you
sé
so
si
much, friends.
alguna de las
I don't
otras
know
quisiera agregar
if
algo más o
anyone
pasamos
else
a la
wanted to add
siguiente
anything
parte de
else, or should we
nuestra
go on to
actividad.
the next part, our activity?
Bueno, decir que la comunidad de
Well,
Las
just to
Anonas
say that
es
the
una
Las Anonas
comunidad
community
muy
is
organizada, como
a
nos
very
dijo
organized community.
Marisol.
Just
Cuenta
like
con una
Marisol
junta
said, it
directiva
counts on a
muy
board
activa,
that is very
sus diferentes
active
estructuras como el
and
comité de
has different
mujeres,
structures like the
los
women's
equipos de fútbol,
committee
decirles que sí,
and
hay
the soccer
bastantes jugadores y
teams
jugadoras
because there
ahí.
are several players there.
Está el comité pastoral
And
muy
there's
activo,
also the
trabajando
pastoral
siempre.
committee
Y
that's always active and working.
pronto tendremos
And
lo que
soon,
es
soon, we will
reestructurado
have what
o
is
conformado el comité
a
de jóvenes, que hay
restructured
muchos
of
jóvenes
the
en la
youth
comunidad,
community
por eso hay
because there is
muchos
a lot of
equipos
youth in
también.
the community.
Entonces,
And that's why
el
there's a lot of
fútbol
soccer teams.
predomina
And that's
bastante
why
como
soccer
recreación,
predominates
pero también
most
hay
things as
otras actividades
recreation.
dedicadas
But
para los
also there's
niños
other activities
y un gran
dedicated to the
involucramiento de
children.
la comunidad en las
And there's
diferentes
a great
actividades,
involvement in the
decirles
different
que es una comunidad
activities
muy unida
and to be able to show
y
that we are a
a pesar de
very
las adversidades es
united
muy
community.
guerrera,
And
organizada
despite the issues, is
y siguen
um,
adelante.
ready to fight and keep
Muy
going
bien,
forward.
muchísimas gracias, compañeras.
Very good.
Agradecemos
Thank you,
sus
friends.
aportes. Vamos a
And
continuar
we
con nuestra
appreciate what
actividad,
you've
pero
added
más
here. We're
tarde, en
going
un
to
par de minutos,
go
vamos a
on with
volver
our
con,
activity, but
este,
in a few minutes we're going to
con
come back
ustedes.
to
Vamos a
this.
darles el micrófono otra vez, pero
But
aquí vamos a
to
seguir
well with you to
y
give you
pues
the
ustedes
microphone again,
son
and
parte
we'll keep
de
going
este
here, and
evento, ¿no? Así es que
you are
no
part
se
of
vayan.
this event.
Ok,
So
nos vemos.
please don't leave. Please
Pero
don't
aquí
leave.
vamos a estar listas.
No, we'll be here ready.
Okay. Yes, please don't leave, everybody, because there's more to do, and this is where we get more interactive. Yes, first of all, thank you to our friends from CRIPDES and Las Anonas for their presentation. They've given us a good overview of the flooding in Las Anonas and some of their plans to help alleviate the problems that they're having. But now we're going to try to keep a strong focus on the social and politics of this situation, and make sure that we are expressing our campaign here as an act of solidarity and not as just charity. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to introduce myself as well. I'm TJ. I'm on the U.S. policy team for U.S. El Salvador sister cities. I'm living in the U.S. Um, as you know, part of our sister relationship, we want to try to reflect on similarities in our own lives, and um, the our friends at CRIPDES and Las Anonas brought up many different subjects that we could talk about. They talk about laws that favor landowners and corporations, food security, rising food costs, climate change, making the extreme weather events worse, polluters offloading the costs of their business onto communities, and the elimination of social programs and the failure to fund adaptation and other environmental methods to stop floods like this. So we are going to be going into breakout rooms to discuss some parallels between the flooding and release effort in Las Anonas and some of the similar challenges and concerns we are facing in the United States. So we're going to have 4 breakout rooms, as you can see, based on 4 different topics. And each one of the breakout rooms is going to have a facilitator. So first we have grassroots and community organizing, which will be led by Olivia. Maybe she can wave or introduce herself. Yes. And next we have political actors, which will be facilitated by Kelly. Economic actors by Marin. And general society or public opinion or even culture, which will be facilitated by Joni. And in the breakout rooms, we have 2 questions to get the discussion started, but feel free to express yourself as much as you'd like. So first, share any situations in the United States that parallel the context of flooding in Las Anonas. I brought up some topics that you could talk about, but how are communities impacted by climate change? In what ways do corporations and governments contribute to these concerns? And for the second question, what is the response of your group's assigned actor to these challenges in both the US and El Salvador? Are they similar or different? And if so, how? And I think we're going to now be moving into those breakout rooms. So yes, thank you all for participating.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, TJ. So I just put the questions for those breakout rooms in the chat. And soon here you will see a little message pop up. Marin's group is going to be staying in this main area so that we can have interpretation. So if you don't get an invitation to go to a breakout room, that is why. And we will see you all in a few minutes. Enjoy.
Hi, everyone. I'm not sure if everybody has already left to go to their breakout rooms. Seems like yes. Okay. So this is our group. I'm Marin, for those of you who don't know me. And our group is going to talk a little bit about economic actors and how economic actors impact experiences and communities. So I guess let's start with the first question, which is, can you think of any situations in the United States that parallel the context of flooding in Las Anonas? And I can go ahead and start just to get the ball rolling, and then I would love to hear all of your thoughts. One thing that to me immediately comes to mind is that I'm currently living in California and I am from Colorado, which are both areas that are really impacted by fires. And kind of jumping, I guess, to the second question, which is talking about economic actors, that makes me think a lot about how communities are impacted by this natural occurrence that's happening. But also, that's really exacerbated by the fact that insurance companies will not always insure your home if you're in a risky area. And so it makes me reflect a lot on how the economy impacts the way that structures respond to disasters. And I think that people who are experiencing disasters from an economic perspective are often considered to be kind of a nuisance and something that is, just a personal issue they're going through that shouldn't really be impacting our economic occurrences and things like that. So yeah, that's my starting point is yeah, fires in California and how that impacts lots of rural communities. And now I don't know if someone else wants to go and just maybe introduce yourself and maybe say where you're calling in from. Maybe Brian, would you like to go next? If you need some more time to think of an example, you can also just introduce yourself.
Next, I'm Brian. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio. Actually, what I was thinking about when the senoras were talking about the sugarcane irrigation and how that's impacting them. I wasn't really clear on how that's negatively impacting them, um, but they did talk about how it's messing up the riverbed and it just made me think this isn't really directly related to this question, um, but but it's been on my mind since they mentioned it. Like if there are ways that communities that are vulnerable and are being negatively impacted by, the climate crises, the floods, all that kind of stuff. If there's ways that they can partner, might be overstating it, but like align themselves with some of the big landowners that have a very big economic interest in maintaining, the quality of the irrigation system and whatever else they need. That if there can be like a win-win, that if the big cash crop people like the sugarcane people are advocating for improvements with the government, that it could also help. That's just something that's on my mind.
Well, I mean, since you mentioned the water pollution, I mean, that's something like to me in my town, I'm in Madison, Wisconsin, and there was a pollution in the water of like PFAS, it's called. It's like they're microplastics essentially that was due to the airport. And in Las Anonas, it's due to typically pesticides and fertilizers from the sugarcane getting into the river, which causes kidney disease and such. So, and it's not even really something you can like claim insurance for like fires because it's like it becomes just a personal health issue for most people. That's how it's expressed, but it's really it is the cost of this production being offloaded, being put on average people slowly and over time. So it is just like it's a injustice just fundamentally in that way.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. And also, I just wanted to add that I think it's interesting that like what you were saying about insurance, how people's homes are insured because the way that our system works values property, but people's bodies aren't valued in the same way. And then there's other than like healthcare and insurance companies then make money off of people who are sick. And so from an economic perspective, people being sick isn't really necessarily a problem because other people then make money off of that.
I think the first example, yeah, sorry. My name's Emma. I'm US coordinator and I'm living in Denver. But I was recently in Cleveland, Brian. Love Cleveland. It's a very good place to be. The first things that came to my mind have already been mentioned around fires and pollution in like waters. I know that Lake Erie, which is right by Cleveland, had been like set on fire basically multiple times because of like pollution from different corporations. And it was because of activism around those big polluters and those occurrences of the lake being on fire that the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, was created in the United States. And yeah, it just makes me think about how our systems, like our economic systems specifically for this group, are set up in ways that just prioritize profits at the expense of people's health and the environment. And that in order to win like the things that we have won so far, it takes a lot of struggle. So it's really exciting that we're able to have these conversations and work together across borders to continue that struggle and continue to win for our health and for the planet.
Thanks, everyone. Emma, do we have time for more comments, or are we about to have everyone come back?
We have about 20 seconds left.
Okay. Well, in that case, does anybody have a 15-second comment? No. Well, thank you all for coming. This is an interesting, yeah, I think that it's the economic intersections are really interesting, especially right now, as you know, the economics is used to justify a lot of really rough things.
Okay. I think that's everybody back now. So thank you for participating, everyone. I hope you had some good conversations. We're going to try to share with the group, what you were talking about. So if anyone would like to go first, preferably not by one of our facilitators. Anyone interested in taking a first stab at discussing it? All right. Yes, go ahead, Mary.
I was in the political group led by Kelly, and it was Daisy and Willie and I. And we talked about the change, the lack of FEMA response to, first Daisy was talking about flooding in Vermont recently, last summer. And we were talking about the floods in North Carolina last year, and how because of the cuts to FEMA, which is the federal emergency management for the people in El Salvador. My nephew, his town was just wiped out, and he ended up having to basically migrate from the region because though there was a lot of community involvement, the government actors didn't help. And so we talked a lot about how the political actors were choosing to prioritize the wealthy and the economic class over the people. Well, we talked about Katrina in particular and the levees and the just like what's happening in Las Anonas and in San Vicente, where the levees are not being maintained for years and years and years, then surprisingly Katrina came through and killed the people. That's what we talked about.
Thank you. Yes, definitely. It seems like governments, as climate change gets worse, they're willing to spend less and less on it with every year. So it does not bode well for everybody else. How about somebody from the grassroots and community organizing? Can we hear from one of them?
Sorry, TJ, we're gonna break your rule that I was chosen to report back. Um, from grassroots, we had Cynthia and Sulma, and Sulma had a really, at least for me, thought-provoking question, um, asking if in the US we had organizations like CRIPDES who accompany people who are suffering from climate disaster to the government to help them either receive resources or lobbying. And Cynthia had mentioned, FEMA, Red Cross, and they are kind of depoliticized or organizations. They don't seem to be interested in organizing or helping people demand their rights in the face of these issues. And I think that that is really indicative of the culture in the United States that is individualistic and is anti-organizing. So that those are our takeaways.
Thank you. Yes, it's definitely a big difference. And CRIPDES, I think part of that was an impact due to the Civil War and the struggles that forced on them. So yeah, the United States hasn't really had a similar base to form like that. Okay, I was in the economic actors group, but I probably shouldn't be the one to talk about it. So how about we hear from one of my group mates to talk about economic actors?
I see some of our group mates up here too have stepped out for a minute, so I'll break the non-facilitator rule also, as same as Olivia. We talked a little bit about the various economic factors that contribute to how climate change disasters and struggles impact communities in the US. Some of the issues that were brought up were things like fires in California and how insurance companies won't insure your home if you're in a risky area anymore. And what does that mean from both an economic perspective and an organizing perspective? And then we talked a little bit about health impacts of, companies putting lots of pollutants into water bodies and how that's something that happens in a lot of different places in the US, and how a lot of people end up with things like kidney failure and things like that, and how that's a really similar thing both in the US and in El Salvador. And then we just spoke a little bit about how economic actors value profits and property and all of those things over the bodies and the health of people. And what that means from a corporation perspective, and what that means from an insurance perspective, and how all of those different economic factors kind of play into the way that climate disasters are experienced by people both here and in the US and in El Salvador.
Thank you, Marin. I think that was very well put, and wasn't a rule, but I would just hear from new people is always good. So last but definitely not least, how about general society? Can we hear from your group? I believe that was led by Joni.
Any chance that you, Rosina, or you, Joan, would want to share? All right. Rosina, go ahead,
Well,
please.
no, I was about to say that I think you know better because you're in contact with the with Las Anonas and I unfortunately I don't have time to like listen to the news much, and so I'm not much updated with what's going on.
I think it also could be because I let you know that I took notes. So, so Joan started us off saying all we have to do is listen to the news at night and we'll hear weather reports that go on and on about major disasters that mostly are coming from climate change. Whereas, like right now, there are many tornadoes in the Midwest, lots of loss of life. Boston's going to receive up to 4 inches of rain in the next 2 days. And Trump is going to get rid of FEMA. That is that organization, as you noted earlier, Mary, and I think you also, others, that respond to emergencies. You know, we went last year, the fires in California, the floods in Asheville, and year on top of year, we've had sugarcane cultivation in Florida and Louisiana that wreaks havoc on poor populations specifically, you know, causing asthma issues, et cetera, just as it does in Las Anonas and in the region of the Lower Lempa. And then just recently, we're learning about in Tennessee how Musk's IA machines are running and spewing toxins into the air, and again, affecting only the poorest of neighborhoods. So we're outraged about the impact on the marginalized. And then what's the response of our group being General Society? So one response is it depends on our party. You know, all is okay, all is grand. Working for a greater America if we're of one party, while others are out in the streets protesting. On the other hand, there is a humanitarian response. Somebody on the news tonight was talking about he had never needed anything, but in the face of tornado, he is in need and people are coming with goods, with food, with care. And so there is solidarity in the midst of this travesty. We talked also about insurance. It's an economic issue, but rates are going up due to climate change here. And then in El Salvador, that's not an issue because there's not insurance for most people in El Salvador. And then lastly, the general society sentiment, if it doesn't affect me, not in my backyard, I don't got to worry, which is really sad. So really, we have the full gamut, a full range of responses from general society.
Okay, thank you. And that will conclude our group discussion. So thank you everyone for participating and sharing your thoughts. That's what is really one of the most valuable things we can get out of organizing like this. Just coming together and bringing our best thoughts to the table. So, and I think we're pretty much on schedule. So now I believe it's going to Kelly, who will talk about the CRIPDES proposal.
Hi, everyone. Okay, we just hear about Las Anonas and from CRIPDES, what is the situation that this community is facing. So in response of this, CRIPDES has asked us to help to support the recovery efforts through a new agricultural initiative. The main goal is to assist 40 families in Las Anonas with an agrocultural project that will allow them to grow corn, black beans, and squash using environmental sustainable methods. The project would also include training in water management technology and the importance of the environmental protection. Helping the community is going to build resilience against the future climate related challenge that they can face. In addition to this, CRIPDES is also going to work with the community in an advocacy plan in order to continue the advocacy work that they have been doing over the years with the public institutions. For example, they are calling the Executive Hydroelectric Commission of the Lempa River and the Ministry of the Public Works to improve the management of the water flow from a nearby dam and strengthen the levee system. Las Anonas is a particular vulnerable as sits between the Lempa River and the Avocado River. So this project is also expected to be sustainable as well once the initial process are completed. That means that the first 40 families will be able to share their knowledge and provide support to other 40 families. The project is also expected to start in October 2025 in order to begin planting during the dry season. And this is a key time to avoid the flooding during the rainy season. And finally, we have that the total cost of this project is $11,292. So we need to raise the funds by October, and we will provide not only the resources for the agricultural project itself, but also the critical education and tools that these families need to face the climate change. I will drop in the chat the link of the proposal if you want to look more details about it. And that's why we want to invite you to make a donation. We have heard from the community members at CRIPDES about how the rainy season affects and how the public institutions they are not responding to these situations. It's just the community organizing that is helping in these kind of situations. We have also recognized that this issue is not just for Las Anonas. We already heard that this is something that can happen even in United States when some of you share about how the flood is in North Carolina. So that's why we want to invite you to maintain the solidarity with these families. That is one of our sister communities. So far we have raised around $3,000, and we want that you help us to reach our goal. So if you are interested in make a donation, you can scan the QR code that is in the presentation, or you can also go to the links that are in our chat.
Muy bien, muchísimas gracias, Kelly, por presentarnos la propuesta
Very good.
para
Thank you, Kelly,
apoyar y
for sharing
ayudar
that
a la
proposal
comunidad de Las
and
Anonas
so that we can
en este
accompany
esfuerzo
the community in Las
para dar
Anonas
continuidad a
in
su
this
iniciativa
effort to give
productiva.
continuity
Ahora
to
vamos
their
a pasar a
productive
una
initiatives.
sección de
Now we're going to
preguntas
pass
y
on to a section
para las
of
compañeras de
question and
CRIPDES San Vicente y
answers
la
from
comunidad de Las
our
Anonas.
friends at
Tenemos
CRIPDES
un
San Vicente
aproximado de
and our friends in
10
Las
minutos,
Anonas.
entonces
We have
le
approximately
invitamos a
10
que
minutes, so
escriban
we
sus
invite you
preguntas
to
o
write
también
your questions or
activen, mejor dicho,
also
su micrófono
activate
y la
your
puedan
microphone
compartir.
and be able to share it here.
Entonces ya tenemos abierto el
So
micrófono,
we
entonces
have the microphone
pueden
open
compartir sus preguntas.
so that you can share your questions.
Y no puedo ver si alguien está como levantando su
And I
mano
can't see if
aquí en
anyone
la
is raising
cámara
their
porque
hand on the
tengo visión
camera
limitada
because
de las
I have limited
participantes,
vision of the
pero
participants.
pueden desactivar su
But
micrófono
you
y decir
can
más. hacer las
activate
preguntas.
your microphone and ask any
De lo
questions.
contrario, nosotras les vamos a preguntar a
Otherwise,
ustedes.
we will ask you questions.
O también puede ser comentarios, reacciones en
Or
general.
they can also be comments or reactions in general.
Puede ser una pregunta o comentario sobre la presentación que hicieron las
I'm going to
compañeras
make a
de
question
CRIPDES
about the
San Vicente,
presentation that
la
our friends
presentación
from
de las
CRIPDES San
compañeras de Las
Vicente
Anonas sobre cómo
and
está
the
la
presentation of
actualidad,
Las Anonas,
sobre cómo enfrentan
the
estos impactos
how
como dijo
they
la
face
compañera,
these
en cada
impacts
lluvia es una preocupación.
in every
También
rain.
puede
It's
ser
a
una
concern.
pregunta o
It can
pueden
also
ser
be a
preguntas y comentarios
question
al
or
tema de la
questions and
propuesta para
comments
apoyar
on the
a
topic
la
of
comunidad
the
andina.
proposals for supporting the Anonas community.
I'll have a question. So, there are families that have participated in a similar project. And I'm wondering, to give us hope for this project for future families, is there a difference in the way that the families are able to produce food with the new the new knowledge of irrigation during the dry season? So I think they're growing during the dry season, which is new and different, and maybe will help save them from flooding. So has that been beneficial? And is that something we can hope for as an alternative for growing crops in the future?
No sé, Zulma, si van a haber
I
otras
don't know,
preguntas o
Zulma, if
vamos
there's going
entonces
to
a
be
terminar.
more questions or do we
Quizás
answer
respondamos
after
esta
each
porque no
question?
tenemos otra pregunta
Maybe
por
we
el
answer
momento.
this
Si
one
es que
because we don't have any other
tal vez
questions for
en
the
este
moment.
momento se
So
animan
maybe
otras personas
for
a
this
preguntar
moment,
también.
and then we'll see if anyone
Ok,
is up to
entonces
making more
Lurvi nos
questions.
va a ayudar con para
Okay,
responder esta
she's
pregunta.
going to help us with answer this
Sí,
question.
hay una gran
Yes,
diferencia
there is a big
al
difference
cultivar en el tiempo de invierno
in
y en el tiempo de
growing
verano.
in the
En el
winter and the
invierno,
summer.
por una
In the
parte favorece
summer,
lo que son las
in
lluvias,
some ways,
pero
it's favorable that there's
que
rains,
tenemos esta situación que se
but
pierden los
we
cultivos.
also have the situation
Y
that
en
we
el
lose our
verano,
crops.
la
And in the
diferencia es
summer,
que
the difference is
cuesta un
that
poquito más por
it
la
costs us
situación
a
de
little
que hay
more
que
because of the
regar,
situation
¿verdad?
that we have to
Primero se
water,
aprovecha
irrigate.
la humedad,
And
la
first,
humedad de los
we
suelos, pero
um,
también hay
take
que
advantage of the
ayudarle con lo
humidity,
que es
but we
el
need to
riego.
help it with the
Así es que esa
irrigation.
es la única
And
diferencia,
that's the only
pero
difference. But
atendiéndole con amor, con ese empeño que
tending
los
to it
cultivos
with
de la comunidad
love
Las
and
Anonas
that
tienen,
effort
se
that
puede
the people in Las
obtener
Anonas
con
have,
éxito lo que es la
we
cosecha.
can have success in what is the cultivation.
No sé si se logró responder a la pregunta de Johnny, pero en el caso de la
I don't know if that was enough to answer
es
Joni's
importante que
question, but I
también
think an
si
important
las
difference
agricultoras utilizaron abonos
that
orgánicos, ¿verdad? Más saludable,
agriculture workers
requiere un
use
poquito de
that's more
más
healthy
trabajo a
is
la
that
hora
it
de cuidar
requires more
de lo de las
work
hortalizas,
when it
pero se
comes the
garantiza una
topic of
alimentación
hortalizas,
saludable y una
but it
producción local que las
produces a
familias, en la experiencia que
healthy
tuvimos
product. And
anteriormente,
with the
los
experience that we had
productos
before,
sacaron
the
de los
products
huertos
that
que se
came out of
comercializaron en la
those
zona, no solo las
were
familias de la
commercialized in the
comunidad Las
zone. Not
Anonas
only
salieron
the
beneficiadas,
families were
sino también
benefited, but
las otras familias
also
que
the
lograron
other
sembrar y
families that
comprar
were
estos
able
productos,
to buy the
también
products
obtuvieron una alimentación
were also
saludable.
able to have a
Eh,
healthy nutrition.
quizás también aprovechar de hacer un
And
comentario
also,
por
I'll take advantage to make a
alguna de
comment
los grupos
because
que
one of the
mencionó,
groups that
¿verdad? El tema
mentioned
de cómo
the
afecta la
topic
plantación
of
de
how
caña,
it
¿verdad? Las
affects
comunidades
the cane
para que las que
cultivation,
están en esta campaña
and
puedan
the ones
escuchar.
that are on this
Las
campaign
comunidades
can
del Bajo
hear
Lempa, de este colegio,
the
estamos
in Bajo
rodeadas
Limpa
prácticamente de
community,
cultivos de caña.
we
Estos
are
cultivos de caña,
enveloped in
obviamente hay una afectación porque hay
cane
bastante
cultivation.
extracción de agua para el riego de
There's
estos
a lot of
cultivos.
extraction of water from the river for
Utilizan
that
químicos que son
cultivation, and they
obviamente
use
dañinos para la salud.
chemicals that are very
Hay
dangerous to the
mucha gente en
health.
la zona que padece de
And
insuficiencia
there's a lot
renal,
of
¿verdad?
people that
Pero también,
have
¿verdad?
insufficient renal
Tenemos
function in that
afectación
area.
con el cambio climático y las
But we also
sequías que
have
se dan
climate
también.
change and the
Una, la sequía, dos, la
droughts.
explotación del
So one, the
riego para
droughts,
todas
and then
estas
second,
grandes
the
hectáreas de
exploitation of
cañares
the irrigation
y al
for
final
that
la
small
ganancia
amount
son
of
solo
cane,
para los dueños
and
de los
the
cañares, a las
earnings are
comunidades
only
como
for
se
the
dan las
cane
afectaciones.
owners. The
Entonces,
communities
alternativas
just
de
face the
producir
effects.
sanamente
So
en las
to be
comunidades
able to
pues son
produce
importantes para
healthily,
también
it's
contribuir a la salud
important
de
to the
las
community
familias.
to also
Quizás
contribute to the
quería
health of the
compartir
families.
este comentario
I just
porque
wanted to share
surgía,
that
¿verdad?
comment
De
because
uno de los
it came up for
participantes de los
me
grupos.
and it came up in one of the groups.
Bien, gracias, Maritza. ¿Hay otro
Good, thank you,
comentario o
Maritza. Is there
pregunta?
any other comment or question?
I have a question. First of all, thank you so much for being here. This was super special to be able to see your presentation. I'm wondering, since Las Anonas is such an organized community historically, whether in organizing for this project you have had to have any new strategies, especially given, for example, I know many communities have trouble having young people involved in organizing. And I'm wondering how you have been responding to. Oh, I'm sorry if there's a loud car outside. I hope it didn't disrupt. I'm just wondering what strategies you have been using to respond to challenges in this particular organizing project.
Sí, en este momento estamos
Yes, in this moment,
viendo quién
we are seeing who
de las que estamos acá podemos
of
compartir,
us
¿verdad? Esta
can
experiencia y
share
creo
our
que es
experience,
conveniente
and I
que
think
una de
it's
las compañeras de
convenient
la comunidad pues lo
that
pueda
one of the
compartir.
members of the community should be able to share.
Bueno, pues
Well,
con la juventud,
with the youth,
digamos que hay muchas
well,
metas en
you
la
could say that
comunidad,
there's a
¿verdad?
lot of goals
A
in
la
the
que
community,
hasta
right?
ahorita al final
For
como que
what
no han sido
we have right now
logradas, ¿verdad? Definitivamente como
hasn't
se
been
desean,
met
pero decirles que
definitely, but
hay una buena organización
definitively.
también con
But
los jóvenes.
there's also an
Tenemos
organization
muchos
with the
jóvenes
youth. We have a lot of
que
youth
se dedican más
that
que todo
are
a la
dedicated
área
more than
de
anything to the
en
area
fútbol, se entretienen en
of
fútbol o
soccer.
también
They entertain themselves with
por
soccer,
parte de
are
CRIPDES ya
also
hemos
on the
tenido
behalf of
como
CRIPDES. We've
capacitaciones,
had
hemos tenido
trainings.
muchos,
We've had a lot
o sea,
of
siempre el apoyo a través
always the
de CRIPDES
support
para como
through
mantener una
CRIPDES to
buena,
maintain like
una
a
buena
good
organización,
good
siempre va
organization.
buscando la manera
Always
de estar
always looking for the
organizados
way
como
to be
jóvenes,
organized
también
as
como
young
adultos,
people,
o
just as
sea,
adults,
enseñar un poco tal vez de lo,
and show a
o sea,
little
de las
bit
personas
of
mayores,
what
¿verdad?
the
Hasta de
older
los jóvenes,
people know through the
transmitir,
youth, transmitting
buscar transmitir lo bueno
or
también
looking
para
to
los jóvenes
transmit that
y
what is
también para
good
los
through the
niños,
youth and
porque
also
como podrán
for
ver en nuestra
the
comunidad
kids, the
tenemos
children,
muchos jóvenes al igual que
because we
muchos
have a lot
niños.
of youth, and it's the same that we
Y
have a lot of
esperamos pues
children.
lograr
And we
muchas
hope that
formas más
we
para
will
que los jóvenes
find a lot of
pues
other
tengan
ways
una
for that so
mayor
that the youth can have
distracción
a bigger
y nuevas
distraction
experiencias en la
and new
comunidad.
experiences in the community.
Quizás para complementar un
And maybe to
poquito,
complement a little bit,
el trabajo con la juventud,
The work with the
sí hay
youth,
dificultades, ¿verdad?
there are
El,
difficulties,
el uso
right?
de las
The
tecnologías,
use
¿verdad? De
of
las redes sociales a
technology
veces pues
and
los
social
entretiene,
media
¿verdad? En otras áreas,
sometimes
pero
entertains
las
them in other
estrategias que estamos
areas, but the
constantemente
strategy
lanzando,
that we
¿verdad? Servicio de
constantly are
comunidad,
talking about here in
desarrollamos la Escuela
community,
de
we are
Liderazgo el
developing
año
we
pasado,
have
si no me
developed
equivoco, y
the
se involucraron a
leadership
jóvenes
school,
que
and
ya
we
son
had
parte de algunas
involved
estructuras
youth that
comunitarias
are
y
already
al
part
joven que
of
se
some
quiere
community
motivar a que se
structures,
incorpore.
and they
Tenemos
vote so
previsto
that
para
they
este
can
año también
incorporate
desarrollar la Escuela
themselves.
de
And
Liderazgo
we
y la meta
have
es poder incorporar más
planned
jóvenes,
to
animarlos, utilizar
incorporate more
metodologías
youth and
participativas,
encourage them and use more
lúdicas,
methodology that
creativas,
is
para que se puedan animar
involved
a
so
participar y
that
a
they can
organizarse
be
porque
motivated
efectivamente
to
sigue siendo un
move and be
reto lograr
organized, because
organizar a la
it's
población
still a
joven.
challenge to organize the young community.
Muy bien, muchísimas gracias, compañeras, por
Very
las
well.
preguntas y
Thank you
también
so
por
much for the
los aportes de parte
questions
de CRIPTES San
and
Vicente
for
y
the what has been
la comunidad de
contributed
Las Anonas.
through
En
CRIPDES
este
San Vicente and
momento
the
vamos a
Anonas
pasar
community.
a una
In this
última
moment, we're going
parte
to go
de
on to one last
convivencia, por
part
decirlo así, o compartir
that
nuestras
is
experiencias,
to
perdón,
collaborate and
en
share our
que
experiences,
quizás alguien
and that
de US
maybe
Policy nos puede
someone
compartir
from
un
US
poco como
policy
una
can share a
reflexión
little bit
final
about
de lo que hemos
a final
escuchado, de las
reflection of
experiencias
what
y
we've
compartido en
heard, the
esta noche.
experience, and
No
what has
sé
been
si
shared this
alguien
night.
nos
I
puede
don't know
dar
if anyone
unos 3
can
minutos
give us
máximo para
maybe
compartir esa
3 minutes max
reflexión.
to share
Igual
that reflection.
invitamos a las compañeras de Las Anonas a
And
que nos
we
compartan
also
esa
invite the
reflexión
community
en
of
tres
Las
minutos
Anonas to
y
share a
San Vicente
reflection in
también, las
3 minutes,
compañeras de
and San
CRIPTES San
Vicente
Vicente.
as well,
Entonces
the
quizás
community of San Vicente.
comenzamos
So
con
maybe we start
la
with
representación de US
the
Policy y
representation
después
of
la
US
comunidad de Las
policy,
Anonas
and
y
then
finalmente
with
nos
Las
quedamos con
Anonas,
las compañeras de
and
CRIPTES.
finally with our friends
¿Les
from
parece?
CRIPDES. Is that okay with everyone?
Sure. Yes. And I represent the US policy team. So, yeah, just a few things I want to mention. So, yeah, in 2024, the United States, they had 91 flood emergencies, which was the highest on record. And since then, we've seen major government organizations and programs such as the EPA, FEMA, the NOAA, which does weather forecasts. They've been defunded or had employees fired or their programs cut in different ways. We've seen the government even further favor the interest of large landowners and large corporations, often multinational corporations, against the interest of normal citizens. And really also at the basic level, we've also seen rising food costs, like we've seen in El Salvador, and more people facing poverty and even extreme poverty. So even though the United States and El Salvador have many differences, we are all of us are still living on the same half of Earth in the same period of time, and that means we also have a lot in common. So that's something we always need to keep in mind and keep working towards a better future for us all in solidarity and strength. So thank you.
Muchísimas gracias, TJ, y gracias por
Thank you
recordarnos
so
esos
much,
datos tan
TJ, and thank you for
importantes y también
reminding us of
recordarnos
those
que estamos
important
aquí.
facts, and also
Y ese es lo
reminding
bueno
us
de
that
este
we are
espacio,
here.
compartir un
And that's
poco
the
de las
good of this space,
experiencias de
sharing a
ambos
bit of the
pueblos vivos
experiences
y
that
unir
both
esfuerzos.
lands face and unite
¿Alguien de las Anonas que
forces.
quisiera compartir una reflexión final?
Anyone from Las Anonas that wants to share a final reflection?
Pues de mi
Well,
parte
on
y
my
por parte
behalf
de
and on
mis
behalf of
compañeros,
my friends,
pues decirles
well, just to
primeramente,
tell you, first of
darle gracias
all,
a Dios
give thanks
por
to
la gran
God
razón
for the
y el
big
motivo de tener
reason and
gran apoyo de
motivation of
ustedes.
having
Se los
the big
agradecemos
support from you
bastante porque
all.
a pesar
We
de
are
tantas
very grateful for it
dificultades,
because even through
de
different
muchas experiencias que
difficulties
tenemos en
and
la
experiences
comunidad,
that we've had in the
de
community,
preocupación
of worries. We feel so grateful because you don't know how great it feels to know that we can count on you in our issues, but also in our joy that we share. And so just to say thank you for the great effort that you all are making as well, because I know not only us face struggles and worries, I think you all do too. And just how we live in El Salvador, you also have your problems, your difficulties. And I think it's something that we are eternally grateful for. And as I said, just to thank you for the great effort that you're making. Maybe we can't pay you for it, but God will multiply everything that you have done for us. And that I hope that we will always be there hand in hand in difficulties and joys, but always very organized, not only as a community, but also in sisterhood. And for me, those are my words.
Excelente, muchísimas gracias, Sofía y
Excellent. Thank you so
compañeras
much,
de la comunidad de
Sophia
Las
and
Anonas.
friends from Las
Y pues de
Anonas
eso se trata
community.
esta
And that's what this
relación
is about,
solidaria,
this
¿verdad? Sea
solidarity
una
relationship,
relación que va
to
en
be a
ambas vías,
relationship
donde ustedes
that
nos
goes in
comparten
both
un poco
paths,
desde su
where you
experiencia,
share a bit
mucho
of your
mejor dicho,
experience
desde la
or a
experiencia
lot
de
of your
nosotros,
experience,
y
your
nosotros
organizing
como seres humanos
experience. But
aprendemos y
us as sister
compartimos
cities, we
también
learn
las luchas que se llevan
and
en los
sharing
Estados
your
Unidos.
struggles
Así es
and
que
our struggles
muchísimas
that happen
gracias
in the
y
United
vamos a
States.
escuchar de las
So
compañeras de
thank you so
CRIPDES.
much. And now we want to hear from our friends at CRIPDES.
Bueno, quizás agradecer, ¿verdad? La oportunidad que nos
Well,
permiten de
I
compartir
want to thank you
parte
all for the
de qué hacemos
opportunity
en
to
nuestro
share a
trabajo,
bit of
compartir
what
esas
our work
experiencias que tenemos.
involves and
Quizás
sharing
en
our
algún momento
experiences
no
that we
hubiera
have. Maybe in
pensado
some moment
en
I would have
comparar, ¿verdad?
thought,
Esa
I
similitud,
never would have thought of
porque se podría pensar
comparing those
que
similarities.
nosotros tenemos más
Because
problemas
you
que
would
ustedes,
think
pero también los
that maybe we have
tienen
more
en materia de
problems than you all,
inundación
but
de
you
grandes
also
tiempos que
have
se dan
them.
allá. Yo creo que nosotros
These
nos iría
large
peor con las
floods.
políticas públicas
Maybe
que
it would
tenemos,
be worse for
pero
us with
gracias
the
por darse el
politics that we
tiempo
have,
de
but thank you
escucharlos y
for
de
giving the
compartir con
time
nosotros.
and taking the time to listen and share with
Hablar
us,
de solidaridad y de
to
esa
talk about
unidad, de
solidarity and the
nuestra
unity
aporte, ¿verdad?
and
Que
that
ciudades hermanas y
contribution
todas
that sister
las personas
cities
solidarias que
and all
aportan
of
a este
the
esfuerzo
people that have
nos permiten pues
solidarity with
acompañar
this
las luchas de
effort,
nuestras
they
comunidades.
can accompany
Estamos
us in the
en
struggle
esta
in our
madre tierra
communities.
que cada
We are
día nos
in
pide
on this
ayuda,
Mother Earth
auxilio.
that is every day
Tema
screaming for
económico
help.
de explotación nos va a seguir afectando.
The
Tenemos
economic
que seguir siendo la
exploitation that will
voz,
keep happening. We
tenemos
have
que
to keep
seguir
being the
haciendo las
voice,
luchas tanto
and we
para
have to
cuidar el
keep
medio
the
ambiente
struggle alive,
como para
both to
luchar por
keep
nuestros derechos.
maintain the environment
Hoy más que
and
nunca
fight for
para
our
nosotros
rights.
como
Today, more
CRIPDES,
than
con
ever,
el
for
acompañamiento a las
CRIPDES and the
comunidades,
accompaniment with the
necesitamos de esa
communities, we
solidaridad,
need that
esa
solidarity,
solidaridad
that
en
solidarity
este
that
gobierno
in
actual
this government
donde
currently,
nos arrebatan las
where
esperanzas con estas
they
leyes de opresión, de
kill our
represión.
hope with the
Necesitamos hoy más que nunca
repression.
pues contar
We
con ese
need
apoyo,
more than
tanto
ever
para
to count on
procesos
that hope
formativos,
and that
tanto para
support
ayudar en la
that can
parte
be
agrícola a
transformative,
las
not
comunidades,
only to
como
help
para que
the
nos sigan
agricultural
respaldando en
efforts,
nuestras
but
luchas
also to keep
y que
supporting us
sigan
in our
alzando esa
struggles
voz,
and
¿verdad? Que
raising
la
that
que nosotros
voice.
podamos hacer que ustedes también
Aside from everything that
sigan
we can do, that you
ese
all
norte y
can
esa fuerza
also
para
be that
avanzar
motivation
en
and
la
that
defensa de
strength
los derechos
to move
que
forward in the
están
defense of rights
irrespetando en nuestras
that
comunidades.
aren't being
Así
respected in our
que como
communities.
CRIP de San
So
Vicente
as
no nos
CRIPDES
queda
San
más que
Vicente,
agradecerles a
we
ustedes por
don't
estar
have
también en
any,
pie de
there's
lucha
nothing left
y
but
por ser
to
parte de
be
esa
grateful to
solidaridad
you
que
for
construye,
your
que
part in the
aporta y que
struggle and
resiste a
everything you
nuestro lado.
contribute and that
Muchísimas
resists
gracias a todos
by
y
our
todas.
side. Thank you to everybody.
Muchísimas gracias, compañera y
Thank you
compañeras
so much,
ahí en la
friend and
oficina.
friends in the
Pues sí, la
office.
solidaridad
And
pretende
yes,
que
the
las luchas sean un poco
solidarity
más livianas, ¿verdad? Entonces,
is
ahí vamos a
so that
seguir
the
siempre
struggle can be a
caminando
little
juntos y
more
juntas.
light. And
Antes
so
de
we will
que ya
always be
llegamos a nuestro
together,
tiempo, pues
walking
solo queríamos
together.
tomar 3
But
minutos más
last, we just want to
de su
take
tiempo
3 more
para
minutes of your
finalizar.
time
Antes de
to
pasar el
finalize.
micrófono a
Before
Olivia,
passing the
quiero
microphone to
leer unos
Olivia,
comentarios que
I
han
want
puesto
to
en el
read
chat.
some comments
Y
that have been
Johnny
in put in the
dice,
chat.
las
And
mujeres de Las
Joni Brooks
Anonas han
says the
hecho un
ladies of Las
trabajo
Anonas
excelente
have
organizando
done an
y liderando
excellent
la
job
comunidad en los últimos
leading the community in the last years. I don't have any doubt that the youth will become even more organized in the community in the next years. Mary Durkin says, thank you so much for this experience of solidarity and hope in these difficult times. Thank you so much, CRIPDES San Vicente and our friends in Las Anonas for this presentation that is so beautiful. Long live solidarity. And they say thank you to everyone and everyone.
Yes, thank you
Olivia.
again, everyone. Thank you, Ana, Marisol, Sofia, Lurvi, and Maritza for your presence here tonight and for the important information you've shared. And thank you to the people who've donated. I see that we've already made over $500 tonight for this proposal. This is an invaluable space for exchange and organizing in the face of authoritarianism and climate disaster, both in the United States and El Salvador. So, once again, if you haven't been able to contribute, please consider contributing to our flood relief proposal. And I also wanted to share with you all our popular education school that will be happening this August from the 10th to the 17th. And we will be in Arcatao. So unfortunately, we won't be with our comrades in Las Anonas, but we will be learning from our important partners and strengthen relationships with each other. And with that, thank you, everyone. It's so nice to have you all tonight.